Welcome, everybody. It's Thursday. It's 3 o'clock. George and George today. Howdy, George.
Hey, George, how are you?
Pretty good. Nice to see you.
Yeah, nice to see you as well.
We haven't done one of these together in a little while. I always
Little
like the
while.
confusion of the dual name thing.
Yeah, the George and George show is always a popular one, no matter what we're talking about.
And today should be no different. Today is kind of a new product day announcement in a way, right?
A little bit, yeah. I mean, for some people who've been using, I guess, the predecessor of what we're going to be talking about, this is more of a revision thing than new. But I think for some people, this will be all new.
Yeah, there's definitely some new cool stuff that people can do with Epiphan Cloud. So Epiphan Cloud, we've talked about it a little bit over the past few months as we've been clearing out all the little bugs to try to make it just perfect. But it's coming out on, when's it coming out, George? It's like in a week or something?
Next week, December 8th, is going to be live for the public. Yeah, pretty excited.
Cool. So today we are going to give you a short tour of the platform. We'll tell you what it can do, what you might want to do with it. If you own Epiphan equipment, this is going to be of interest to you. If you don't own Epiphan equipment, you will not find this interesting at all.
Yeah.
Because it goes really, really hand in hand with trying to run a bunch of Perls or live scripts to make sure they run well, to have a cloud control over all of that. So we'll dive into that. George, you're monitoring comments, I'm going to guess.
I am, yeah, and people are already, talking some trash to us. Apparently, we had some hot mics during our intro there, so that was a good time. Luckily, don't think we said anything too terrible this time.
It's a hit and miss.
But Tim Trott's in the chat, Linda's in the chat, people saying hi, so appreciate you being here. Again, if you're an Epiphan Perl user of any Perl model, this is going to interest you. But if you're not, it's not really going to be terribly interesting to you. But maybe let's kind of jump into it. Let's do this introduction all about what is Epiphan Cloud. So this has been a lot of work from you, George, and a number of other people. So what is it? What's the idea here?
Sure. Well, maybe I can tell you where it sort of came from. And that we have a lot of customers who own a lot of Perl systems. So they might be a university, or they might be a live event company who does thousands of hours of live video every week. And if you are trying to manage multiple devices of any kind across a network, you kind of want one centralized dashboard for them. So you don't have to log into each system independently. Or you might want remote access to those devices so that you can be managing a fleet of encoders in Boston and you're doing it from Fort McMurray, Alberta. So a real hotbed of AV technicians are out there, trust me. So just to have that those two basic capabilities, I think are going to be really helpful for certain customers. For some customers who have one or two units, it's maybe not as critical to have a cloud-based system to manage them, but for a lot of people it really is. Yeah. You must hear about it. You're on the phones all day with these people.
Well, absolutely. And like you mentioned, we have some live event customers that have fleets of hundreds of Perls that they're loaning or renting or using themselves, and they never know where they're going to be. And so remote access and remote status, those kinds of things are important. We also have, a large customers who are universities who have hundreds and hundreds of units spread across campuses and in different classrooms, and same problem. They need to manage this big fleet of devices in an easy way, and that's kind of the problem that we needed to solve ultimately. And so that's what I guess the objective, right?
That's right. And so we had kind of a version of this a little bit through AV Studio, which is another product of ours that is now being discontinued, kind of being replaced. You could access your devices remotely, but now you have this fully fledged dashboard designed for that kind of stuff. So why don't we jump into it? We can give a little tour of the platform.
Yeah, so we've been talking a lot about remotely accessing the devices. So maybe let's pull up the UI a little bit. We'll look at that. So this is basically they're one of our lab test environments, and so there's a bunch of units that you can see are paired to our account. So basically what happens is you pair a Perl device to your account, and it'll be listed in your page of devices, and that's where you're going to then be able to do all the various different functions. So this will work with Perl Minis, Perl 2s, Perl Nano, LiveScript, all the kind of devices we're going to see in the field that people are going to need to do this with. And it doesn't matter where they're located. The Epiphan Cloud, as the name suggests, lives in the cloud, but it creates secure tunnels from there to the individual Perl units. It is an encrypted secure pipe. It's not,
and completely optional. You can disable this so you
Exactly.
don't have any connectivity to our cloud services.
Yeah, we definitely have customers that would not use this and have security concerns. You can turn all this stuff off, so that's not a big deal. So we have this page, and you can see here we have a Lab Perl Mini sitting in our office. We have a unit called Main Stage Perl 2 that's just running some, random footage. Another Perl Mini in the office. So these are all separate individual units. And we can get some quick status here, and we'll drill down into some of the more things that we can do there. The other thing you'll notice is a bunch of check boxes and things like that, and we can do batch actions here. That's another big part of this. So oftentimes when, let's say I'm thinking of one customer in particular, they have 400 Perl Minis deployed across a wide range, and they need to do a batch action to maybe start and stop a stream or start and stop recordings, or maybe most importantly, do firmware updates for a fleet of units. The batch actions can help us do this. It means that maybe you only have 1 or 2 units and they need to start streaming and recording at the same time. That's something we can do. But we can also do more involved things like firmware updates as well. So that's going to be really cool. And I think we've had a lot of people asking about that from customers who have hundreds of units in some cases.
And there's a lot of, like, when we talk about what you can see on this platform, in terms of, you may want to remotely log into your device from here. And you can do that there's a couple of ways. You can quickly just see remote login, and then it's just, you get the typical admin UI that you'd expect, where you'd see, your sidebar and all the normal stuff from a Perl system.
Right.
But you can do a lot of that functionality right here from the cloud as well. So it's kind of a hybrid. And we're going to expand upon this. So maybe at some point you'll be able to do all of your functionality from this cloud instance. But for now, it's mostly about monitoring these different kinds of statuses. So you can see your device health at a glance, and you can start and stop streaming and start and stop recording. So some kind of basic operations.
Yeah, exactly. There's also kind of a deeper level of insights that we can do here. So you'll notice that there's been things here, talk about the model, whether or not it is online or offline, the storage, the IP address, the temperature. So we can actually find out a lot of statistical information from here as well. We can know what system loads are. If a unit goes entirely offline, it'll be reflected there. So there's quite a bit that we can kind of see at a glance and really use.
And the filters are really powerful too. Like you can filter for anything you want really in this list. And this is just a starting point. So if you just want to see everything that's given a bad health, luckily for us, we don't have anything like that right now, but even fair health and good, like all these little very specific things, but we know our customers are going to appreciate that, I'm sure.
Yeah, exactly. So there's kind of that as well. Again, people like me who might work in a support role and they need to know basic status like online, offline storage, temperatures in case something's about to catch on fire or whatever it might be. You can find all that out. We also have a way of speeding up the troubleshooting so that if we need to, the filters help, but there's also an alert system built in. So you can customize these alerts to basically tell you, whatever it is that you might need to know. Luckily, we don't have any flags here, but we can have alerts sent, for offline or storage limit triggers, or maybe we lose an input signal. There's a no signal trigger, the overall device health, frame rates, bandwidth dips, which I've seen some side notes here that we're suffering from a little bit ourselves. So I apologize if people are seeing some stuttering there. Automatic file upload rules, total system load, like all kinds of things here. And you can customize that so that you can get these alerts. We also log these alerts so that if something happens overnight, you can go back and you can see what it was. So that can really help speed up a lot of the troubleshooting aspects when you're dealing with a fleet of devices. So that's again, I think a lot of people are going to enjoy some of that stuff, to get a sense of what's going on with their devices for sure.
Yeah, and it's because this is a platform built for teams, it means that, George, you might care about these alerts and I might not.
Right.
So you can set these alerts up to be very specific to the user. And you can also, you can have a big team. So we have 3 people on, actually I'll have to see how many people we have on this team. There's 4 of us here on this team. And you can set different kind of permissions around that as well. So I can invite somebody who I want to give limited permissions. Like I can downgrade you to an editor or an operator. And that way you won't completely screw up the system if I want to do that. So there's some nice functionality around collaboration there.
Yeah, and that's, again, whenever you're trying to manage a fleet of devices, no one person can be responsible for that still. You're still generally talking about a team effort of some level and capacity. And so being able to add members, even if it just means that they can't change anything, but they'll see alerts, that might be enough in many instances for the secondary members of that team. So that stuff's really cool. Some of the things here as well, if we kind of look at the controls, we've seen some of the start, stop streaming and recording, but some of the other things we can play with are things like sort of passing down streaming destinations or changing encoding settings and things like that.
Yeah, let me show you what that looks like. So we're in this Pearl here, and you can see these are my channels. I've got 2 channels, and I can do quick changes here on this kind of dashboard and say, okay, I want to stream this one to Akamai, or I want to stream it to a saved destination. We have common destinations here, which are different, which means we can save this streaming location and apply it to any Pearl we want. Right. So you're not always re-entering those credentials.
Right. But so it's basically like a saved profile, and maybe I need it on Pearl A then one day and Pearl B the next day. But it's always a consistent destination. It's easy to kind of move that around, and which is
and it'll give you a heads up if it's being used somewhere else too, so you don't accidentally start streaming to the same place with 2 Pearls. But within this channel as well, you can see a preview of your video and get some basic statistics about what kind of encoding is happening here. And it's just loading a higher res preview for us right now. Yeah. So that's beautiful March Road in Ottawa.
At the railway crossing.
Railway crossing, yeah. And we've got a PTZ camera in our office right now pointed at that. So the nice thing is I'm controlling a Pearl that's 60 kilometers away from me, and I can see a great high quality image and verify that it's in good shape. So even if you are just a single operator, you have 1 Pearl and you want to have that remote access in and check out that image, you can do that really easily using Epiphan Cloud.
The good news is that what you did there, you switched it to a higher frame rate, a full frame rate. By default, it's at a lower frame rate to save bandwidth and processing, so that you don't have to worry about every time you click on this, it just totally eating into everything. Right?
Oh, it would suck your bandwidth, and everybody would be really angry. You'd get a lot of calls if that's the default behavior.
We've thought about that to make sure that you can get a refreshing snapshot even in the default, but if you temporarily need that full frame rate, you can trigger that to get that information. Yeah.
So let's just summarize this a little bit, George, for the people at home. Epiphan Cloud, it's great for monitoring really many devices. It's good for remotely logging into devices and maintaining it. So if you're an IT person and you have a lot of devices to take care of and you don't want to run around to a bunch of classrooms or event spaces and have to plug in laptops and update things, this is going to be a really big time saver for you. So that's really what this is all about. Time saving and
just trying to get information. But maybe you're someone who, traditionally would be doing on-site video production, and maybe currently today you can't, and maybe the business has changed enough for you that in the future you just won't. This is going to allow you the option of maybe you just ship your Pearl Mini on site and people just need to plug in a couple of cables, and then you take over entirely remotely, and you don't have to be on site ever necessarily. And that's
I know
workflow.
I'm waiting for that to happen for our own studio, so that Cameron can completely monitor my Pearl here and we don't have to do any of our production anymore.
Well, that's just it, is that
we need to just play a little dumber, I think, and make some mistakes, and then he'll jump in.
Exactly. And we will start doing that very likely, is that we'll end up pairing the Pearls that are in our homes to the cloud, and then all I'll have to do is turn mine on. I don't leave mine on all the time, but I could just turn it on. And then I don't have to go in and configure anything anymore. Whoever the producer is that day, whether it's Cameron or someone else, could just do it all instead of him yelling at me to start my SRT stream. He could just do it himself. And that's going to be a pretty powerful way to do this, especially as we start to see these use cases like we've talked about many times the past few months, where you might use something like the upcoming Pearl Nano as a remote SRT contribution encoder feeding a central point. All of that being controlled in one place, like in the Epiphan Cloud. So I think there's some very cool things coming that we're going to see people start to leverage out of this.
I think so. And we're going to create a really snappy, like 3-minute, 4-minute video to show you how all this works.
Yeah.
You can also sign up for free. So you can go to epiphan.cloud. That will be available on Tuesday. And you can sign into it and give it a run. And all you need basically to test it out is any kind of Epiphan device, like a Perl or a LiveScript. You can pair it and see what it's capable of. And then you can decide if you want to purchase a plan for it. So there's a free version, which has some limited capabilities. And if you want all the bells and whistles, you're going to have to choose one of the tiers.
Yeah, but there's some ways to tailor that to your particular needs too. So it's not a one size fits all. There's some customization that can happen there. We did have a couple questions coming in. Linda was asking, how does it work when Cameron has slower internet? Well, I mean, he always has slower internet. But the nice part about this is that, a lot of these functions are just very, very basic API commands that we're sending between Cloud and the Pearl. So if whoever is remote using the cloud, if they're not looking at those video previews, their bandwidth impact is actually next to nothing, because they're just sending very basic API commands in terms of start stop or changing some basic information like a stream destination. So that's very, very, very basic. I just saw in chat, sorry people, we lost George, but that doesn't help because I don't know which one of us got lost. So I'm just going to assume it's you, George. Yeah, so I mean, there's, I do see my counter. My SRT stream restarted at some point, so I'm guessing it's me.
Okay.
Hopefully
I missed you, George.
Yeah. Hopefully I'm back there now. It looks like something triggered my SRT stream to restart, so apologize for that.
Where's your cat? Probably your cat.
It's probably that fly that's been buzzing around my room. But anyway, so I think we're going to see a lot of cool things, come out of this. And I see Danny Grizzle in chat saying, it looks very cool. So that's awesome. And we're really excited to see how people use this. I mentioned earlier, and Linda was kind of surprised that there are customers who might have as many as 400, pearls. I mean, there's people with more than that. There's a huge range of customers out there. So it's going to be really interesting to see how kind of each demographic and scale of user ends up applying what they can do here. That's going to be fascinating.
Indeed, this is our first release too, so it's going to evolve quite a bit over the next year. So stay tuned for that.
Absolutely.
We are here next week, and what are we talking about, George?
Well, funny enough, along with Epiphan Cloud running out, there will also be a new firmware update for Pearl Mini and Pearl 2, version 4.13. And that's what we'll be talking about next week, about all the features that we've put in there. So if you think some of the status and troubleshooting tools that we built into Epiphan Cloud are cool, just wait till you see what's built into the Pearls themselves, because there's some really cool stuff for the nerdier people, I think, the more supporty people out there in 4.13. And so we'll be talking about that next week here live at Epiphan every Thursday, 3 o'clock Eastern. So make sure to subscribe, follow, like, do all those things. If you know someone who owns multiple Pearl devices and you think Epiphan Cloud would be useful for them, share this with them, and I'm sure they'll appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks, George.
No, thank you, George.
See you in a week.